Thanks for tuning in. My name is Sean King, and this is Top Shelf. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should be selling your Bitcoin by the end of March 2021. I'm not just going to speculate. I'm going to give you concrete evidence that if you're holding Bitcoin, I guarantee you that if you watch this video to the end, you're going to be running to sell your Bitcoin. If you want to hear more, just run the clip. Welcome back. I'm going to get right into it. Reason number 1. There's a very euphoric feeling about Bitcoin right now. See, markets represent the feelings of the investors. When their feelings are running high, the markets are running high. Everybody wants to invest. When their feelings are running low, the markets are running low, and everybody's hodling their cash. What's going on with Bitcoin right now is it reminds me of Game of Thrones. During the first season, nobody's really talking about Game of Thrones. By the mid-season, your friends are starting to tell you about different characters. And towards the end, in the final season, you're starting to see everybody's status is about Game of Thrones. You're seeing memes about Game of Thrones. And by the season finale, by the grand finale, even your own mother knows about it. And this feels the same way with Bitcoin in March of 2021. Everybody's an expert right now. See, the rule of thumb in trading is that you should buy the rumor and sell the news. See, when you see it on the news all the time, that's a big indicator that it's time to sell. Reason number 2. Bitcoin is at the top of its market cycle. See, one of the most important things to consider while making an investment, and I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take this as financial advice. This is just education, entertainment. But one of the things you should consider when you're making an investment is your entry point. So regardless of how solid an asset is, your entry point really determines how much profit you're going to make. And if you enter at the wrong time, that's a recipe to lose money. During the crash that happened in March of 2020 due to the current events, Bitcoin dropped down to $5,000. So a lot of the hedge funds, financial institutions, high-profile investors, a lot of them have financial advisors that have cash on the sidelines waiting for such an opportunity. So they probably invested in Bitcoin between, say, $5,000 and $10,000. And now that in March of 2021, Bitcoin is at $57,000 after its last all-time high in February 2021 of 58,200, you got to think that a lot of the people that invested in March of 2020, they're getting ready to take their profits. And if somebody's going to make a profit, this is because they're selling and somebody else is willing to buy. And if you're the one that's buying at 57,000, close to the all-time high, then you're going to be on the wrong side of that transaction. And this brings me to my next point. Capital gains taxes. Capital gains taxes are taxes that you have to pay on an asset that you buy and then appreciates. See, if you buy an asset and you hold this asset for less than a year and then you sell it, if this asset appreciates in value, the capital gains taxes that you have to pay is significantly higher than if you buy an asset and then it appreciates in value but you sell it after holding it for more than a year. If you manage to get into Bitcoin at the lowest entry point that we discussed in my previous point, then a lot of the people that were able to get that entry point, they're mostly hedge funds, financial institutions, high profile individuals, and more than likely, they had cash on the sidelines to accumulate a big amount of Bitcoin. Furthermore, they're probably accumulating over a period of time. However, if they manage to buy their asset in March of 2020, it's likely that they're not in a big rush to sell because they're going to be looking to hold the asset for more than a year. However, if they were able to get in really low at $5,000 in March of 2020, then in March of 2021, we're coming up at the time when it's going to be at the optimum time for them to sell, especially because Bitcoin is just now getting back to all-time highs again. So if you got into 5,000 and Bitcoin is now close to its all-time high of 58,000, and you're getting to a point where your taxes are going to be significantly less, now you're starting to have an incentive to take your profits. And now if you're the one that's buying and the hedge funds are selling, they're going to be selling significant amounts that are going to move the market. I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to suddenly drop in March of 2021, but my point is, they've already held their asset for a year, so anytime beyond March 2021 is going to be a great time for them to sell. It's possible that Bitcoin can keep going up from 58,000 to even 70,000. But I can assure you that between 58,000 and whatever it goes to, somebody's going to take a huge amount of profits. My third point is geopolitical narratives. There seems to be a geopolitical narrative that is being built around cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin. See, Bitcoin uses proof of work technology, and proof of work is very energy intensive. And we're now seeing, like in this article by Forbes, where it states, Bill Gates sounds alarm on Bitcoin's energy consumption. Here's why crypto is bad for climate change. It goes on to state, as Bitcoin pushes towards new highs, billionaire philanthropist Bill Gates is sounding an alarm on the cryptocurrency's strikingly high carbon footprint. When you start to see these kind of things coming out, this is a real risk in your investment. Because if your investment doesn't align with where the narratives are taking us, then it's time for you to start thinking about whether this is going to be a sound long-term investment. Especially now that you probably have made a significant amount of profits. If that's the case, then maybe you should be thinking about getting out. It doesn't stop there. We're seeing a similar narrative being built in China as well, where a major Chinese Bitcoin mining hub is shutting down its cryptocurrency operations. It actually states that China's Inner Mongolia region plans to ban new cryptocurrency mining projects and shutting down existing activity in a bid to cut down on the energy consuming operation. When you start to see things like this, especially when they're global and not just in one area, then it's cause for concern. Now let's watch a clip where Biden actually talks about energy consumption and what his plan is.
Challenge expectations. They see breakthroughs in technology we can't even yet imagine, but the only way they're going to get a chance to fill all that potential that we take drastic action right now to address the climate disaster facing the nation and our world. More severe storms and droughts, rising sea levels, warming temperatures, shrinking snow cover and ice sheets. It's already happening. And science tells us that how we act or fail to act in the next 12 years will determine the very livability of our planet. Yet today, President Trump denies the evidence in front of his own eyes, hides climate science produced by his own administration, and actively works to roll back what progress we've already made. It's reckless, it's irresponsible, and it is unacceptable. So today, I'm announcing my plan for a clean energy revolution. It outlines what we have to do to meet this challenge head on and how we're going to get there. We're going to invest $1.7 trillion in securing our future so that by 2050, the United States will be 100% clean energy economy with net zero emissions. By the end of my first term, we will have an enforcement mechanism in place to make sure we stay on track to get there. You know, we're going to make record-breaking investments in research and development in zero-carbon technologies so that America is the engine of the world's clean energy economy, exporting cutting-edge equipment stamped Made in the USA to help other nations reduce emissions and mitigate and adapt. This initiative will create more than 10 million new good-paying jobs all across the clean economy in the United States of America. It's an enormous opportunity. We'll hold polluters accountable for the damage they've caused, particularly in low-income communities and communities of color, not only due to climate change, but the pollution they are pumping into the air that is breathed and the water that is drunk in those communities. You know, we're not going to forget the workers either. The workers who, through dangerous and back-breaking labor, powered our industrial rise, mined and built our arsenal of democracy, and fueled America's prosperity through the 20th century. They've earned our thanks, our respect, and our support. Finally, we have to bring the world along with us. Global action requires American leadership, but the United States only accounts for 15% of global carbon emissions. The rest of the world has to step up as well. So on day one, I will immediately rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. But that's not sufficient. We need to dramatically accelerate our worldwide effort to meet the intensity of the challenge we face. So I'll immediately get to work, leading a diplomatic initiative to get every nation to go beyond their initial commitment, to push our progress further and faster. This is especially true for China, by far the world's largest emitter of carbon. We will not only hold...
So as you can see, it's more of a global effort where all of the countries are coming together against carbon emissions, and some kind of negative narrative around Bitcoin's technology, because Bitcoin uses up a lot of energy. So with that being said, this takes me to my next point, which is regulations. There are really no regulations around cryptocurrency at the moment, and the US is getting ready to pass clarity around regulation of digital assets. Let's see what that looks like. According to CoinDesk, US lawmakers are introducing a bill to clarify cryptocurrency regulations. The proposed bill would create a working group to evaluate US cryptocurrency regulations with input from the SEC and the CFTC. Let's watch this clip.
A little handful of members of Congress introduced Tuesday morning a bill that seeks to convene the CFTC and the SEC and U.S. lawmakers to get clarity on where crypto falls in the regulatory regime. Right now in the U.S., it's a bit unclear. There's a lot of confusion around what is a security in the crypto space and what is a commodity. So what this bill seeks to accomplish is clarity on that front. And I think it's, we talked about the IRS yesterday taking this stuff seriously, and here's yet another example of more action in D.C. to clarify this emerging asset class. I think it's a good thing. Obviously, the devil's going to be in the details here, but seeking consensus among these parties seems to be the main thrust of this bill. I'm going to toss this to Naomi, who is always quick to praise government and government officials. So I'm curious for her laudatory statements about said development.
Yeah, Let's just dive right into how much I think creating another government agency is a great idea. No, I mean, this is mixed. And as you said, the devil is in the details in this. It does talk about having lots of representatives from the wider community. They talk about larger businesses, smaller businesses, researchers in the space, all of this. This could go so many different ways. If they actually get genuine feedback for people in the industry, it could be a good thing, because you have different regulatory bodies right now that are kind of clashing against each other. Meanwhile, people in the space who are using this stuff, building businesses, don't know which way to look, because one government agency says, well, we're saying that this is a security, and the other is saying, well, this is a commodity, and the other is saying, well, this is a currency, and they're all these different opinions that are getting thrown at us. And meanwhile, businesses are saying, we have no idea what you want from us, and you have no idea what you're talking about as well. So definitely anything that encourages government agencies to learn more about this, learn about the people in this industry. I mean, the name of the bill sounds nice. It's all about like innovation and supporting innovation. But I mean, that's what they did with the Patriot Act, right? They create a nice name for something and it ends up being a nightmare. So we'll see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I may take that back as soon as we get details of this, because it could be a total nightmare. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is just sort of standard process for these things, right? Like, we have the IRS, this independent body coming out with their own, kind of actions on this. And then you have lawmakers getting involved and a lot of crosstalk between different, congressional members and then other parts of government to try and get all of these disparate entities together around a cohesive set of regulations. And I think that'd be positive in the sense that it would offer some predictability for crypto holders, which is such a big issue here because we don't know what's coming down the pipe. But this is, again, I'll wait until I see the report. This is a little bit of the announcement about the announcement, like I like to say. So the body is convened, but we don't know what it's going to look like. The cybersecurity stuff and the custodial stuff, I think, is going to be really interesting. That's going to have some of the implications you were referencing, Naomi, that could resonate down the line. But to me, this feels like one more incremental step forward. And we'll see when this report comes out if it's caught up to things like DeFi and everything else. Zach, what you got?
I mean, it's called the Eliminate Barriers to Innovation Act of 2021, Ben. I mean, what's the problem here?
Sounds so positive.
Sounds so positive.
That can only apply to one thing, right? We've never heard that kind of bill name before.
Yeah, the Lawful Access to Encrypted Data Act. I mean, it's lawful. It says it right there in the name of it. It must be good. Or the Earn It bill, which is explicitly to stop, children getting hurt. Who could hate anything that stops children? No, they always create these wonderfully noble sounding things. I think it was Snowden who said that anytime you have a great name of one of these acts, look deeper because it's probably horrendous. So although this does talk about eliminating barriers to innovation, I really want to love this. And they do talk about all the different representatives, but they also say that just to start off with, the group would just consist of people from CFTC and the SEC. So how long it's going to take them to actually get feedback from the wider community? Is this just going to be an unending just a government bureaucracy? And then maybe they might occasionally ask opinion. Like, that's very different to actually having an entity that is comprised of lots of different members from the wider community. So.
Yeah, we're also sort of in the early days of partisanship around these issues too. I think it's yet to be cemented as a Democrat or Republican issue. But if you look at the composition of these bill sponsors, I think it's 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat who submitted this to the House. So I think we are in the early days of seeing the ossification of where Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies fall in the political spectrum.
People don't know whether they should like Bitcoin or hate Bitcoin because their parties haven't told them what to believe yet.
I don't know what to think. Ben, I saw your hand shoot up. Yeah.
Yeah, we covered this. So, in the before a pandemic, CoinDesk went down and covered, the Democratic primaries in Charleston. And so I was on the ground there and talking to voters, and, they were fairly actually somewhat knowledgeable around what was Libra at the time, and were distrustful of that given it was coming from Facebook, but also were interested in the idea of digital currencies and CBDCs. But they had signaled, and they told me explicitly, they really hadn't heard anything from the candidates about this. And so, Naomi, to your point, they hadn't really made up their mind. And so, if that kind of downstream educational aspects and the signaling can start to occur here, sure, we're going to see kind of like tribal political warfare around it, but it might give people more of an idea of what they should be getting involved in.
I think the fact that they've acknowledged that they need input from the larger community is a step in the right direction. I have to say, I was really happy to read that they're going to have all these different representatives involved. I don't know at what stage down the line, but I think it's a good step that they finally acknowledge that.
There you have it. Those are my 5 reasons why you should be selling your Bitcoin by the end of March 2021. I would love to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and comment down below and let me know. When do you believe is the best time to sell your Bitcoin? Also, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and follow Top Shelf Investing on Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.